still do Clubhouse?
No, well, not as much anymore, but
Okay.
we use my brain is like Remo.
Okay. I might have to do these type of sessions. I feel like maybe on Twitter Spaces or something, but we've been using YouTube for the last 2 years. I decided like we'll still do it. Oh, I feel like this type of like mentoring sessions might work better on those type of things.
Yeah, I sent the Focus YouTube channel today to a founder. I was like, hey, here's a whole bunch of content for you. Go look at all this.
Okay, that's all right. I stopped that. All right, I think we are on. Hello, everyone. We're kind of doing this kind of impromptu type of. We feel like I always feel like it's kind of like a little mini city highlight because some of the founders actually have been asking me all these questions, just like Jason, and Jason will introduce himself on their pitch deck. Especially if they're not going to raise, they are just using their pitch deck for partners or customers or just other mentors. So I think this is going to be a really good session. Jason let me do this improv session. Flossie's been solid on these things. I'll start with Flossie. Flossie, can you just do like a intro on yourself and all the brilliant things you've been doing?
Yeah, I am an active duty Navy spouse. I'm also a serial entrepreneur now. Curling was actually my very first mentor, my very first company back in like 2014 or
Yes,
2015.
yes. I think it's
And
2014.
I was grateful to be a part of the very first Focus cohort that went on with that company. And after I left that company, I was able to come on and support Focus in a more official manner, and then went on to help scale and build educational curriculum programs for veterans and military spouses. So now I get the opportunity to do the same thing that curling taught me to do, but for thousands of veterans and military spouses
Thousand.
all over the world. So my most recent venture was the Association of Military Spouse Entrepreneurs. It's an online platform and educational center with master classes, resources, and discounts. And we've helped about 2,300 military spouses go through the education and the program and start their businesses globally. And I exited that company in December, and now I have a consulting firm where I go in and help other people build their education and curriculum and or build their businesses.
I love that Flossie, and she has so many different superpowers. I won't pull those out now. We'll piece those things together while we do this kind of session. But Jason, thanks for being improving on this kind of city highlight offhand. But can you
All
tell a little
good.
bit about yourself?
Yeah, so Jason Roberts, co-founder and CEO of a company called Frontline Careers. And well, this is the first in as an entrepreneur that comes after many years as an entrepreneur,
I like that.
working in corporate America, running different businesses. Spent some time in the waste business. I've been in the energy business and consulting way back when with Accenture. But long story short, my road led to California, where I got heavy frontline exposure running large scale frontline operations. And it's there that I saw the opportunity to connect the men and women on the front lines who are creating a lot of value, but looking for more, helping them find companies that actually offer more. And that's what we do.
I love that. And Flossie, I got to meet their team. I met Jason first, and I got to meet his team. He has his wife Ty is actually in some ways like I feel like. Remember how you said Jason, you had a great team, and what complimented you, like your wife Ty, so
Yes.
solid with
Yeah.
communication and visuals and all that. I met Ari. I think it was industrial psychologist, so you have people on that, and very similar to kind of
Yeah.
focus. It has these different
And our technologist,
and your
Sam.
technologist Sam,
Yeah.
right? And so I think it's a really balanced team, Flossie. I've been learning more and more about their team, but now we're just looking at how you kind of communicate that, like in a story, how you can actually communicate some of those things. So what we're going to try to do, JT, if you want to share out your screen, we're going to use your
Yeah.
previous pitch deck. We know we're going to be working on it. Flossie, I gave him the kind of Focus 101 pitch deck template. I just sent it over to him. They're going to look at that. But I thought it's always kind of good to give people feedback ahead of time. And then when they're actually going to kind of redo their pitch deck, it kind of works well. Maybe they can incorporate some of those changes. Um, that's great. I'm glad you already had this up. It's like we planned this for like weeks, Jason. It's like this is all this months of planning, and we had all these things going. But it's great. So
Perfect.
So just you can just go over the pitch deck as you would go over maybe the first 10, and then we'll go back and give you some feedback. That's usually how kind of city highlights go.
Okay.
If you want to go it that way.
Yeah. So I'm just going to talk through each of the slides, Sterling.
Sure.
All right. So the way we were structuring this was we wanted to just kind of lay out the problem, kind of the current landscape, right? Just there are over 50 million, and really define what frontline workers are. So if there is a such thing as a silver lining to the pandemic, is prior to the pandemic, frontline workers, well, what is that? Is that just healthcare? So, but now you start to hear frontline a lot more, and it's used in terms of, restaurant, retail, hospitality, logistics, warehousing. It's becoming more of a household term, but we wanted to make sure we outline, number one, who is our target? How many of them are there out there? And what do we mean by frontline workers? So when we say frontline workforce, so everybody's on the same page. So we kind of start there. And we also start from the standpoint of kind of teeing up the problem. So finding the frontline talent is a challenge if you're on the employer side, but also finding the right frontline job is stressful, time consuming, and difficult. So we wanted to just really set the stage with this first slide. Then what we did is so again, just kind of say the current state, and this really hones down to the problem statement in a way. So what's the problem we're solving? Companies are losing billions of dollars annually because they don't have a truly engaged workforce. And I saw this firsthand where I like to say you're not getting that discretionary effort, Curling and Flossie, where folks will come into work, but they don't want to be there, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're going to get the bare minimum. You're not going to get that discretionary effort that ultimately translates into greater productivity and more benefits, not just for you and the bottom line of your company, but also for your customers. And then there was mounting external pressure to do more. So we didn't talk about this, Curling, but right before the pandemic, if you recall, the business what's it called? The business roundtable, excuse me.
Sure.
Made a big change, right? Where they updated the stated purpose of a organization or corporation to not just be about maximizing profits, but also to include other other stakeholders, such as employees and the communities that they serve. It was not necessarily a major change to the definition, but it was huge in terms of where things were going. And it kind of highlights that we believe we're on the front side of this movement. We saw it before the Business Roundtable made that change, but there's mounting pressure on companies to do more. And I think you continue to see that, especially in this post-pandemic world. And then on the other side of the fence for the job seeker, job search is painful. We've talked to countless frontline job seekers, just inundated with just the number of opportunities that are out there. It's hard to find what they're looking for. Oftentimes it's more than just pay. And these existing platforms don't cut it. So a lot of them just weren't satisfied, whether it's Indeed or it's Craigslist or it's some of these other ones like Glassdoor. They're just not satisfied with what's out there. So we want to set the stage with this next slide. Okay. From there, we talk about how we bridge the gap, our concept of assessing, where we have our frontline friendly assessment. This is where the IO psychology on our team comes in. What we do, Flossie, is we go into businesses, frontline businesses, and we'll talk to their employees, right? So we have our surveys, it's 3 components. We survey their frontline staff, we survey their frontline managers. There's a company questionnaire component, and we also look at their demographics. Put all that together, and we ultimately come out as to whether or not this is really a good place for a frontline worker to build a career, right? Is this a place that's going to offer them long-term opportunity? And we look at that across our 9 different dimensions, like supportive management, advancement opportunity, and so forth. So we assess. Once we've assessed, we recognize them as being, you see the badge here in the middle, frontline friendly certified, and then we match. So then on our platform, and this is where we kind of pivot a little bit away from the matching component in this early stage. That's kind of, we've pushed that further out, Sterling. But on our job site now, job seekers can more easily filter by which companies are actually providing opportunity for their frontline workers because they've been matched, because they've been recognized as being frontline friendly certified on our job site. And that's amongst some other things that we now do with benefits and perks, you're able to more easily search that based on the feedback that we got from frontline workers. So this slide was intended to show how we bridge the gap. Again, this needs to be updated. This is now dated. This is not necessarily reflecting the pivot curling, but still the flow is about the same. Okay.
It is. I believe the flow is very similar. I like how you had to do it, but I know you're looking at these other things we talked about. Yeah, but this is great. You continue.
Okay. So this was, again, the matching component where we take, there was going to be a front end assessment on the job seeker, and then we use that information, combine it with what the internal, now we've got this just transparency. We talk about within our company, trust and transparency. That's how we differentiate when you think about this space. So the transparency that we're able to gain into these organizations through our surveying component, being able to now leverage that for superior matching from a job perspective. So you know that this company offers advancement opportunity. I'm looking for advancement opportunity. We're going to match you on that along these other elements. If I am on the company side, a job seeker who is looking for specifically what I'm offering, those are more likely to stick around, and therefore my long-term, my turnover and my attrition rate will go down. So it's a superior match. We know that this is a heavier list. It's still on our major to-do list, but we've kind of pushed this further out. So this is a level of complexity that we're going to keep it simple first, Curling, and then we're going to move into the matching, kind of the AI kind of matching component of the platform. So this is no longer what we're pushing up front.
Sure.
Instead, what we're doing is, so from our research, we found that benefits and perks are a big deal, right? Beyond just pay. But if you look at the platforms that are out there today, it's not easy for me to say, if I am looking for flexible work schedule, for me to just easily find, well, which companies are offering flexible work schedules, which ones are offering me paid time off, which ones are offering free medical, right? We have a company right now that's offering free medical insurance. So the kind of the first iteration of this, right, the kind of this first level of what we're going to offer is just ease of use in terms of being able to find those companies that are offering benefits and or perks beyond pay. And we have different tiers. So a 5% discount, employee discount will not qualify you to be listed on the platform. But that's now replacing this as our initial offering to both job seekers and employers. And just real quick, Flossie, too, where we differ, another point of key point of differentiation is that you have to offer something in order to list on the platform. So everything else out there is all about quantity. It's all about primarily just the employer side, but never really focusing on the job seeker, like what is good for them. And you've probably heard this concept of quality jobs. So we are in that space with our job site. So only companies who are offering benefits or perks are allowed to post on our site. So that's this initial offering that I would say that's the initial component of our solution, not this superior matching that you see here. So that was a pivot. So I want to explain that a little bit. Existing solutions. So this is speaking to both existing job sites out there, and versus what we offer. So we've got job search plus recognition. So there's some synergies there. This concept of premium jobs in this frontline space, there is a misperception that, front end jobs are just dead end jobs, and that's absolutely not true. There are employers out there that actually see them as pathways to longer term careers within the company. They actually invest in these positions. So we call those the premium jobs or quality jobs. So we're gaining visibility in that. You don't really see that on any platforms out there. We're cross industry, frontline focused. There are some that fall in this space, but very few. And again, we're looking at the person. So we make it easy. What motivates you, Flossie, is different from what motivates me. Same with curling, right? So we want to, whether that motivation is I need tuition assistance, or whether that motivation is I need daycare for my kids, which jobs are offering that for their frontline employees? It's intrinsic versus some of these other ways of matching. from a comp, we then move into showing competition, just a simple axis. And I tried to draw this on the board for you the other day.
Yeah, I remember it. So this is good.
Yeah. So this is looking at it from a, to what extent are you focused solely on frontline, which is one of our points of differentiation. So we just focus on frontline roles. And again, the way we define frontline is you have to be present to do the work. Okay, I can't work from home, right? And so we define frontline very simply in those terms. So to what extent do you focus is that your target demographic? Some of these other platforms, recognitions are more broad, right? And that has come up as a point of concern. For example, on the recognition side of the fence, you have some of these current recognitions, whether it's Great Place to Work or it's Best Companies to Work For, if you guys have heard of them, that will mix in their frontline with the corporate organization. So my experience was I had a totally different experience when I was working in the corporate office on the same floor as a C-suite, right? Versus when I'm now embedded in frontline operations and I'm seeing where the rubber hits the road. That their work experience was so different. And that was part of the motivation for starting this company. So that's why we're just focusing on frontline, which we believe gives added credibility and helps us build trust. There goes that word again, trust, with frontline job seekers and even with those who are frontline heavy in terms of employers. So we got two dimensions: to what degree are you frontline heavy, and then this one was we've changed this a little bit too, where to what degree is your industry focused. But we've got a simple kind of matrix here that's got or two-dimensional matrix here that kind of shows where we sit relative to others, whether it's Indeed, LinkedIn, Great Place to Work, and where we want to sit. We want to own this premium frontline job space. No one occupies it today because it does not exist, right? There isn't this concept of where are the quality jobs? Where are the premium frontline jobs? To the contrary, they've been dismissed for years, but now you're seeing companies have to pay attention to it. And in many ways now trying to show that we actually are taking care of our employees, regardless if they're on the front lines or in the corporate office. We want to own this premium frontline space. So business model is summarized. There's two things. There's the job postings, obviously, is a key part because we've got our job site. We've got our employer recognition program. We call it Frontline Friendly. So those are the two drivers of the, from a business model perspective. You've got premium job postings that go to the site. So that's a source of revenue, but then also the annual certification. So if you do the assessment, which is the surveys that I mentioned earlier, that comes at a cost, right? You get certified, but the certification is good for a year. And a lot of different programs is very similar. Your certifications are good for a year, and then you reassess to maintain it. So there's going to be a percentage of companies that will fall off, but there's going to be a large percentage that want to maintain that certification as long as it's yielding value, right? So you've got the recurring revenue from the certifications that we're doing, and then you also have the revenue coming from your job postings. There's some ancillary things that we could do too with advertising, with hiring events. We talked about that a little bit, Curling, but the business model is largely driven by those two components.
Sure.
We talked about that a little bit. We had some numbers here. This needs to be updated. Tam, Sam, and Sam. When you look at the number of frontline heavy companies in the U.S., so we did some analysis on that. Back then in 2019, I think it was like a $12 billion industry. The latest I've seen is right now it's sitting at about a $14.7 billion online recruiting. That's just online recruiting component industry in the U.S. Obviously, Indeed, Glassdoor, they have a big chunk. Monster, they have a big chunk of the market. But again, we have a very small niche that we're looking to carve out. So we covered market size, our go-to-market strategy. This has since changed. Again, we were focused on Southern Cal, then we're going to do move to Texas because we had some roots in Texas, and then from there kind of expand out. But we had a slide on go-to-market. And then some projections. Again, these are very, very old and didn't really incorporate just the severe havoc that we were going to experience from COVID.
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
think you kind of see these in these numbers, right? So we had a slide on projections, and then the value of the position. So the beauty of this is you've got, obviously there's a component of the U.S. online recruitment that we want to take out. And again, we're not just for profit. We're doing a lot of good as we are generating these returns. But just imagine once we're able to amass all of this benefit data, right, and perks data, and what's actually moving the needle, what people are actually concerned with. I'll give you one more quick analogy. We were at a restaurant recently, and wherever we go, we've got just a little questionnaire that we, will have a frontline worker just fill out real quick to pressure test some of our benefits in our catalog. And one of the responses, wow, PTO for volunteering. I didn't even know that was a thing. And you could tell from her reaction, like this was a big deal. Like she would actually entertain going somewhere else if she knew that she could have PTO for volunteering. Imagine if you can have this kind of data and insights and provide that to companies and the value that would bring. So not just, sure, it's easy to say more than pay, but to being able to actually back that up with, and here's the types of benefits in your area that frontline workers are most interested in, right? Sure, so there's a following opportunity as it comes to data. And then we talked about our executive team. Now, as you know, Ty is also now officially one of our co-founders.
Sure.
So you got myself. I've got the frontline operations experience, consulting experience, being Accenture, MBA. Ari has, he's the PhD psychologist. Sam, he is the serial startup guy who has a lot of technology experience. And then you also have Ty, who has, run nonprofits. She came over, she actually helped us get going. Marketing experience. You saw the communications experience that she has, that she brings to the team too. So we feel really good about our team. And this was just a kind of a call to action, join us now. The macro trends are in our favor, fills a gap in the market. There's nothing doing what we do, and most importantly, impacts the social good.
Great work, Jason. And I know you have a lot of pivots in here, but we'll work on this piece, and then we can talk about what those pivots could look like too. What I do want you to do is go to the first slide, and we had Mike Lawless. He was actually on temporarily. He's going to try to get a better connection. Mike Lawless is head of USD, part of the veteran entrepreneur programs there, and tons of other programs he's done. I think he actually there's this huge pitch event they do at USD. He helps run that. He's definitely like I feel like he's one of those like founder friendly professors. You meet these entrepreneur professors that the professor, he's actually really solid because he actually can help you with strategy and things of that nature. So he was listening on for the first part. He said he's going to try to zoom in too, but we have another quote unquote shark fish that will probably give you some feedback. I want to actually start off with this over this 15 million frontline workers, largest segment in the U.S. because this is the first time we've seen that number. I think we wrote down stuff on the whiteboard on that piece.
Right.
Could you break down? Is there anything on the breaking down where that 50 million are at? Are like 20% of them in doing retail, another 20% is doing in car manufacturing. You have some of those type of numbers. That's just me just being curious, and that helps me a little bit on this kind of go to market too.
We do have it. I don't have it like off the top.
No problem.
But yes, because actually we built this data, and then we kind of triangulate that with other external sources by literally going to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and doing our own kind of bottom up model, right? So you can look at, again, this was back in 2019 data, so it would need to be refreshed.
Sure.
But our numbers came out in large part in line with other publications and where they see it. So we've seen anywhere from maybe 45 million,
sure,
depending on how they classify certain roles, but 45 to 55 million. But our numbers were about that 50 space.
That was my initial. I usually ask some of the mentors this question too. Flossie, do you have any clarifying questions on what Frontline does?
I do. There are a couple slides later. So I don't know if you want me to focus on the slide or give my overall
You
feedback.
can do. We go overall feedback. That's fun. That's for initially.
Yeah, the overall feedback, you're technically speaking to two users, right? It's a B2B
Yeah.
market and then the B2C market.
Correct.
So you technically have two problems and two solutions. But I would love to see that visually broken down, that this is the business owner's problem, this is the like even with headers, so that it's very clear which sections belong to which.
Right.
And then the assessment that you give, what is the assessment? It's the core of the business of what you do, but you don't actually have a slide that says, here's the parts or the points or the questions or the things we do assess on.
Gotcha.
The assessment sounds great, but I was waiting for the slide to say, what is the assessment? And if they are missing things, just a point that you might already have, but how do you help them fill those gaps? If there's 100 points on the assessment that you give them, and they say, well, we only have 2 of them, you can say, well, here's some education on starting your own, benefits program, or here's a partnership that we have with X, Y, and Z company, which could be revenue, for you as well, to say, we're going to refer you to these payroll providers or whatever those resources are. But what is the assessment? And then how do you help the employer? Do you just say, here's your gaps, have a great day? Or do you actually give them ways to support and fill those gaps? So those were like my most major takeaways. And then your revenue model at the same time only gave us the B2B side of it. Does the consumer pay for it? Is it free? What does that look like for them? So you gave us 2 problems and solutions, but they were kind of hard to, I would love to see those delineated more. And then when you gave us the revenue, it was only the B2B side.
Gotcha.
I like that. And that's a good kind of like overview. Sometimes I actually feel like Flossie used to do this really good too. She would give, like, I remember a persona, a person, right, that we can kind of interact with. It could be like a company like El Pueblo. Like El Pueblo is using this, got a certification from us. We help them, optimize certain things in it, right? That kind of like persona, having that person that someone can kind of say, oh, so that's how they help small business. And El Pueblo will, the only reason I said that is because that was one of the groups you were talking about. This is how we help them do that part. And this is just how we can help you. So that could be one way of doing it. And then having maybe a persona of like, a little curling, kind of going through barista or like he's part of Barnes & Noble. Like, this is how we have to help them on that part. We had a career fair at Connect All, and this is what we actually did and introduced them to all these different groups. And then he actually was in our system, and we actually followed him through that part until he was kind of activated and all the way to, he got like an offer letter. Like it could be
like one of those like animatronic videos that you can do in like 30 seconds or less.
I love that. Yeah.
Amazon comes in, we give them this assessment. When they complete it, here's what we do for them. And then Amazon lists a job, and then Johnny, whoever, applies for that job. And then Johnny knows he's going to get X, Y, and Z. Johnny goes, works at Amazon because Amazon's one of the top employers. Surprise! This is all the things that we do, but in like a very, those little videos you can do online with the little cartoon characters, like something 30 seconds, like use, like Curling said, that start to finish process of what does the company do? What is the assessment? How do you help them with that? And then how does the user come in? Because you do have those 2 demographics, 2 problems, 2 solutions. And how do you serve both communities?
Right. And great thing about that feedback that Flossie just gave. Remember, offhand, you're going to work on your pitch deck, but at the same time, I want some of this type of information, these value propositions to be on your website. And that small video could be totally on the website too, right?
That could be a header image it's the first thing that they see. And from a marketing perspective, they know exactly what you do in under 30 seconds. And it's a clear visual from start to finish.
I love that, Flossie.
Love it.
That's amazing. On that whole visual thing, I'm going to have you, Jason, go back one slide. We'll go to I call it the Billboard Slide. I always say the Billboard Slide is like this initial slide. Like if you had it on the I-5 and someone was driving past it, you only have about 3 to 5 seconds to understand what you're doing. This is what this slide should look like. So I got the Frontline careers. I don't know a lot of people know what Frontline is. I kind of know because I'm part of, Technical Workforce Partnership.
In the community, yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes I've been using it more Frontline because I talk with you. but sometimes I don't know exactly. But you're using it even in your tagline, connecting frontline workers who want more to companies that offer more. Okay, so one thing I was just thinking about, and maybe Flossie's very solid marketing thing, like, but I there's this one fun story, Jason, when Airbnb started, their tagline was like, it was like connecting people to the marketplace of space. It was like really, and I believe they
Like,
got some
what is
mentor.
that?
You try to get crafty with it, and then people are like, "What?"
Marketplace of space, okay. And then I remember Y Combinator, some of the guys said like, why can't you say like, you can rent out your room for more cash, right? Like,
Just say what it is.
Gotcha.
So that this marketplace of space is kind of like when you're just connecting frontline work. Like, it's just some things you can actually do and maybe have it where it's somewhat more friendly. Remember, this is a billboard slide, right? You're driving down the freeway. I would say look at the team and Ty and your groups, and maybe maybe I'll pay on Flossie and give some feedback on this tagline. We can still keep frontline careers, but maybe think about that, because it's still abstract to me. Frontline, where it's still a little bit more on who is that? Is that they just work for Ford, and they just frontline? That's what I used to think. There are actually people in this kind of manufacturing one, but you have a broader kind of, I guess I say, definition of it, and I'm learning that more as we go along.
Yeah, I think in this case, again, this is a long time back, but we were thinking, hey, that's our mission. Our mission is to connect frontline workers who want more to companies that offer more.
Yeah.
Why not put it on here? But I see exactly what you're saying, that, while that means a lot to us, for someone who's seeing this for the first time, you're running into some of the hurdles just associated with lingo when you use frontline. But how can we make it very simple where everyone understands clearly what the rest of these slides are going to be talking about?
Like meaningful careers for frontline workers. And I mean, you have to get like really blatant into what it is, that if you had one sentence only to describe your company to somebody who has no idea who you are and what you do they know exactly what you do from that sentence? And your brand is beautiful too, by the way. I did want to mention that your branding I'm a branding person. It's beautiful. It's very consistently branded, and your deck looks gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, that's some plus there. So good on the branding for the billboard part. I would probably do. Flossie knew we used to do all of our city highlights at Apple, and we used to have our friend Eric, and then he's a lawyer. He would say like, "All right, Frontline's career. Do you have like a trademark? Is that starting up? Is that coming? Like, tell me more about that. Have you guys thought about what that looks like too?"
On the service mark?
Yeah, service mark, all that. Is that all set?
Well, we haven't officially filed paperwork, but we have our counsel, our legal counsel, who said that, as we should be, what my understanding is, in the U.S., our law is a little bit different. So it's based on proof of first use. So really what we've got to really be concerned about is the tagline frontline friendly.
Got it.
So that's the one. So you'll see us use the SM mark. It's not officially registered, but that's where we're saying, hey, we've done the research. We've got proof of first use, and we've got that set aside.
Okay.
Which haven't gone through the formal process yet.
That's fine. And one thing I think Eric always said at Apple, he would say like, go to opencorporates.com. Think of like corporate America. Opencorporates.com. We always told people, just go there, check it out, type in frontline careers, see what comes up. Type in frontline, see what comes up. It usually shows what's active on the IP, intellectual property that other people are having. I can tell like a personal story on that though. We had a couple startups that we started up before, and you know what? The name of the company was we had everything solid. We branded everything. It was a tech startup, but our name of our company was the name of a UK band, and they caused a little issues later on since we were working with Sony and everything. But main thing is actually, if I had just simply went to opencorporates.com, I would have immediately seen that group.
Saw it.
Yeah. So
Okay, yeah.
you kind of want to do those type of like diligence early on before, other things. Like I said, Flossie said it looks beautiful, but you do want to make sure there's other things to make sure that as you expand, there's no other issues.
Gotcha.
Now, there was one really interesting thing, Flossie, you said it on the actual part of the think of it like the assessment part, and talking about what that looks like. Could you go to that slide offhand? Just because Focus works on assessment, Flossie knows that. Maybe
The next, I think it's the next one. Yeah, this is a really busy slide.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love, and when you're presenting, obviously, I mean, I'm sure you should have a presenting deck versus a reader deck. So if it's a reader deck, all this information is great. But when you're presenting, I saw the slide and I was like, whoa, my eyes started jumping all over the place to try to read everything.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on you, who was telling me the user story. So my suggestion is to remove most of the subtext on here and maybe make it even clearer on the paths a little bit. So it's not, but it was very busy to me.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
You got it, Jason.
I was saying this whole slide would go away. And it would be your earlier suggestion, Flossie, where you highlighted the really focusing in on the assessment that we're doing. And I think visually we could show that with, just a high level. I can be a snapshot of the survey itself, right? So kind of a talking point that shows the questions, the actual survey itself, more of a visual approach to that. But we really have two products. So we kind of replace this with our product slide. And one of them and a key part of it is the assessment, but the other piece where we kind of really bring it to life is the job site, right? And how we integrate those two together. So we've got the next iteration of this will do a much better job of kind of telling that story. And again, we're not focusing so much on the back end kind of matching component, but really just the assessment itself and how the job site then brings that to life or exposes that to the masses to make it easier for them to find those great jobs.
And I did have feedback on, so your revenue side, and I said that you only showed the B2B side, but you didn't actually give amounts. What does the service cost? So when you do that user journey of, Amazon signs up, it's $499 a year for the assessment, and then it's X amount in recurring for them to recertify. You did put yourself down a little by saying you're going to have drop off from companies. So maybe even showing the estimate of we plan to have X amount of companies and fill that pipeline to curb drop off rate instead of just saying we're going to have drop off. But I would love to have seen how much does it cost? And then those ancillary services, like you said, assessments or reports or access to the benefits and resources center or partners, it costs X amount per company. So I would love to see exactly how much does it cost and how many companies do you need to hit your TAM SAM that you estimated in there.
Got it.
And why that's so crucial is that it kind of shows a little bit, gives someone kind of like this kind of visual of what you guys are thinking too. Joanna always had this 1-2 slide for some of the startups to work on. It was kind of like this timeline slide, kind of like this roadmap slide, Jason. And know how we did on the board. I think about what that could kind of look like, because you guys have done so much. Even I know you had to deal with pandemic like everyone, but you guys have done so much work. Just showing how much work you guys have done, that can show a lot on what the traction that could potentially you guys can do now that the environment's a little bit different now, right? So I was looking for a slide that kind of looked like that, kind of like that timeline slide, and then like, hey, this is where we're looking at capturing, right, this type of group, and so I think that would be very helpful. This competition side was great. It might have been, I might have taken out a few different people. Maybe it would probably been like, four companies total, maybe something of that nature. This could be for the reader deck, but something that simpler part. But
and logos, I would love to see logos too.
Oh, that's great. I like that.
Yeah,
that's great.
Just to text when you're presenting, nobody wants to read anything. You want them paying attention to you. So if you could put, but I love the breakdown between the two demographics. But again, it was busy. So I was like jumping all over the place, reading all the things while you were talking.
Yeah, I think if you do logos though, you maybe can keep some of the groups in here, but I definitely like to always have this a really clean thing. I know you're gonna be right to the right and up, but just knowing these other ones is like, okay, that gives me more of the landscape. And I was looking for Craigslist too. Is Craigslist in here?
This was again, this is a really
Okay,
cool
that's good, that's good. Yeah,
and this is
because
the first really first cut of it many a long time ago. Craigslist kind of surfaced as part of our research since then.
I love it. Okay, I love it.
Talking with frontline workers, well, what are you mainly using? And that came back quite a bit.
From your customer discovery, and then
Because it's free. That's why that's why I asked, is the user paying anything, or is there any kind of paywall or anything for them?
Well, it's free, but it's also because there's a couple of things with Craigslist. It's a very simple user interface, and they don't have to sort through all of these all of the opportunities out there, specify my radius, and it's going to show me the most recent jobs. So I know when I log in, I can just quickly see, all right, so what else has been posted in my area since the last time I came, right? It's really, really simple. That was what really came through. A lot of the platforms nowadays are going to be free on the job seeker side, Indeed, Glassdoor, Monster, ZipRecruiter. You're not really paying. The employers, there's hidden fees for them, even though they'll say free. It's not really free to get your job in front of folks. And so some of those things, those problems aren't really spoken to in here. Okay. And to your point earlier, Flossie, about showing the problems separate for the employer versus the job seeker, that was spot on, because we've got to do a better job in this next iteration of highlighting some of those problems, but it is free for the job seeker.
But that's where that delineates too, is that you don't really have to focus as much if your revenue model is not focused on the B2C side, but you need consumers to get employers to come in, right? So that's part of your value proposition, is that it's free for the consumer to come in, and you're going to feed that pipeline. So then you have a robust database of consumers, which then makes the companies want to be a part of what you're doing. And I mentioned those other benefits because I work with a bunch of employment and recruitment agencies in the veteran space. So differentiating yourself, you only serve this frontline worker community, but how can you make it amazing for these employers who are on all these other platforms no matter what? And that's why I said, if they've failed your test, right, or your assessment, how are you supporting them with additional services to make it really like a concierge suite of things to support them to serve frontline workers? Because many times when I talk to employers about veteran employment, they don't know what they don't know, right? You come in and they go, yeah, we want to support military and hiring and initiatives, and we have this thing. And once you see it, you're like, that's not really a thing. You need to be doing all these other things. So by you educating them, providing those ideas, and then resources that they can actually click to get those things done, helps the employer, which makes it a better service for them to buy and support.
Right.
Great feedback, Flossie. I'm going to add one more thing on like what I would want to see, and then we'll go to maybe one final thought for you, Flossie. I would like to see, and this is as you're using the pitch deck to actually maybe help with people being advisory boards and things of that nature, having an ask slide, something that you actually need, that maybe the last slide saying, you know what, we actually need someone helping more on the technical side, or we actually need maybe an intro to Amazon veterans, or we actually like something of that nature, or we were looking for advisory board members, people that have some domain knowledge and frontline working and international, or so that would be great. Maybe just 3 bullet points there. And I found that is so powerful. It's kind of like when you ask for money, usually you get some mentoring. when you ask for like very tangible things, sometimes you actually do get money, but you actually get people to actually feel like, yes, I can help Jason, and I can make that intro with AWS veterans. I can totally do that, right? Gotcha. So something of that nature. Think about what those 3 things would be. That would be the only other thing offhand, Jason. But I mean, overall, at least I'm more clear now, even with this kind of first iteration, where you guys were thinking and what were some of your kind of goals. Final thoughts, Flossie?
Yeah, so I had that it was missing a traction slide, an advisory slide, and an ask slide. So three very important slides, which Curling covered two of them. Well, three of them mostly. So with the traction slide, to piggyback on what Curling said, I don't know what stage in this product cycle that you're at. Are you pre-revenue? Are you revenue? Do you have LOIs from businesses already? Do you have beta testers? Is it MVP, or are you literally, it's in ideation phases still? So implementing that into your traction slide to see where you're at, and then your ask, like Curling said, are you fundraising? Are you not fundraising? Are you seeking angel investors or friends and family? Like, I would love to see that on an ask slide, as well as your advisory slide.
Excellent.
And Jason, I was like in with the founder too. What do you have any initial questions for us?
Let's see. Questions. I would say, you guys, this has been excellent. I mean, one thing I'm learning with Curling is you go in thinking one thing and you're going to come out with so much more.
So much more.
Your brain explodes with, oh my God, I have so much work to do now.
Well, when I first met him, we say, let's pop in here and we're going to whiteboard some stuff, right? And then we did it again this last session. And, I wasn't expecting this, but this has been fantastic. As we said, we need to go back and we need to, really put our pitch deck together. This is, exceptional feedback. And I got a lot of stuff here to share with the team. I guess the one question or ask I would have is, Velocity, I really appreciate a lot of your feedback. Would you mind if from time to time we might just connect with you and follow up and kind of continue to build that relationship and get some more feedback as we start to refine this deck? I would love to be able to tap into some of your expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. I work a lot in the national employer space, and I work in the hiring space, but on the DEI for veterans and military spouses. And I've built an online platform. So I'm hoping to take experiences and lessons learned to say, here's great paths or anything that I can. Curling knows I can give you all the good, the bad, and the ugly, but I'm always happy to offer my brain if it makes your life a little easier.
Yes, if we can avoid taking lumps, we will absolutely take you up on it.
Yeah.
Well,
very helpful. Thank you.
I want to thank both of you. This was totally improv because we were going to do Ask Me Anything on that part, but I always feel like things happen for a reason.
Yes.
Like having Flossie reach out this morning, Jason, you need some help on the pitch. I said, you know what? All the things that I've learned from Flossie, I know she can give you some really good, like, honest feedback. That's why I always like authentic feedback. And I felt like this was given today. Glad we recorded it. I'm hoping if you guys are okay that the cohort can kind of see it and other people of that nature. I think it was helpful for other people too.
And it's always constructive and out of love, only because we've seen a zillion of these at this point, and we know what other people are going to be thinking because we're thinking the same.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's great. We're out close to the top of the hour. I want to thank both of you. Flossie, anything that's coming up that we should kind of be thinking about that, offhand that people can go to and see, or what some of the things that you want to kind of tell the group and cohort?
In the last couple of weeks on my LinkedIn, anybody who wants to connect with me, I did post that the Chamber of Commerce by the Chamber of Commerce has the $25,000 Dream Big Awards for people to apply for that. I posted last week about the NBA just posted. They're doing $10,000 grants with LegalZoom for underserved and DEI founders. So anybody who's interested in applying for that. But on my LinkedIn, I post as many resources as I possibly can, or things that come across my desk. So head on there. There's lots of free money out there. Go take advantage.
Okay, so they should just follow you. They should just connect with you on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Is there any other platform you want them to connect with you on? Or?
Nope. And anybody who needs to email me, it's hello@flossyhall.com. You can just email me. And the same for you, Jason. I can ping you afterwards or drop it in the chat.
Awesome.
That's solid. Jason, great work though. I know with founders, it's always kind of hard to be kind of agile and be on the fly and pitching. but I think you did a great job, and thanks even being transparent, knowing that this was one of your first pitch decks, that you've kind of pivoted some. But I think it's always really good to be like transparent and show people where you kind of came from, because there was some really great things in this previous one that actually I learned a lot. I always love these kind of competition slides because it shows me so much more about how the thinking of the team. So great work on everything moving forward.
Yeah, it was a great pitch.
Yes, it was good, right? Improv, and it was like it was good. I will let you guys both go. Flossie, I will talk to you one-on-one later on stuff because I have more things to go on. Jason, I'll connect with you back, and maybe you guys can do another session at Connect All if you want to.
That'd be great, and thank you so much, Flossie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really nice to
Good
meet
luck. Make sure you message me. I'm happy to support you. Curling, just message me when you want to get together again.
I will let you guys both go. And I think it was fun. I'm trying to think of like what else would I say, but I think that was just fun. So I think I'll just let everyone go. Have a good weekend, everybody.